Conversations for Growth. We're here today with the well-known Jason Colbey. I don't think you need an introduction, Jason. But for those that don't know who you are, Jason, who's Jason?
Who is Jason? God, that's a good question, isn't it? No, I am the head of franchise partnerships for the wonderful team at Tarpey. Also, love any opportunity to get on stage and speak and MC, and I'm all about relationships, tech, and kind of streamlining everything. So that just kind of sums it up. Kind of who is this guy? Guy kind of does everything and really, you know, just likes to have fun doing it. That's what it's all about.
I would explain you as someone who is energetic, always
A little
up
bit.
for a laugh and a good time. Also is someone who has a wealth of knowledge
Oh,
in
I love that.
terms of just everything life. Is a family man, loves his
I am.
shoes.
In case you can't tell.
Yeah. Do you think I've missed anything there?
Oh, I don't know. What else have you
So I think
missed?
I know you pretty well.
Yeah, you've gone above and beyond. You've done a better job than I have. That's always a good sign.
And you're all of those other things. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're an absolute legend, Jason. And this is the second time you've joined the podcast. So really great to have you back because we have conversations all the time and it's great to actually hit record and so that we can pass on our wealth of knowledge and wisdom to others, especially in the BDM realm. So today we're
exactly.
going to cover two things, just for those that are listening, relationships, and we are talking proactive maintenance, not reactive maintenance, proactive maintenance. So please make sure you stay tuned and listen to the whole episode today. So, Jason, you and I met through, I would say, actually, we met because I gained an opportunity, and that was at the time to go and meet with some coaches. And accidentally, we met by me on the fly, just going and catching up with them at an event they were holding. And I'm pretty sure I did come up to you and introduce myself. Pretty sure that happened.
Oh, to this day, it's still one of the funniest introductions ever because I left meeting you. So I left that event and I got on the phone to the people that I was working with at the time. I'm like, guys, you have to. I have no idea who this Sarah Cincotta is, but she has come up to me. I clearly know her from somewhere. She has spoken to me like we're friends. Don't know where she is from. I have to figure it out. And couldn't figure it out. And I think when I spoke to you next, or when we caught up next, it was like, I'm really sorry, but where do I know you from? And you're like, oh, no, it was the first time I'd met you. Like, I just sort of come
Yeah.
up and say hello. Completely got me off guard. Like, you were unbelievably warm. And it was like I had just kind of rekindled a friendship with somebody that I hadn't seen for a long time. And you had me spinning around confused for a good couple of weeks. So I will give you that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the reason that I wanted to start with that is because based on that introduction that was very cold, fast track now, years and years later, we're actually friends, right? Apart from
Yeah,
being associated within the industry. So I think that is a great way to start this conversation. And you just never know from that one person that you meet or that one conversation that you have or that networking event that you go to, what opportunities will form from that, right? And what relationships
absolutely.
will form from that. Well, I would love to know, Jason, apart from our meet, like what has been a story that you can share of an example of a relationship that you form now from an initial encounter that was probably unexpected?
Do you know what's amazing, right? And it's funny that you bring up kind of we met at this event, we became kind of really close in the business circles that we run with and industry and all the rest of that. But now that we're friends, right? And I think it's really important that, not everybody you meet at these events or not everybody that you meet out, wherever it be, will turn into friends. But the opportunity is always there, isn't it? So it's one of those things where, you and I have spoken about this in detail when it comes to networking, where it's like you can meet so many people, but if you aren't really fostering that relationship, you aren't making an effort after you meet somebody, well, then opportunities like this don't exist, right? And it's amazing how many times I speak to people and they'll say, I was out at X, Y, and Z and I met somebody and I got their number and we caught up for a coffee and it was all right. And I don't know when I'm going to speak to them next. And it's like, you sound like you have no hope for this. Like it's just I did my job, I met the person, and we'll see how it goes, right? And that's a little bit disappointing. A great example is I was at a networking event. I'll never forget. It was in the city, and I was having a chat with somebody there from a marketing company, and we're just having this chat. And somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, there is somebody upstairs looking for you who works for one of the sporting brands here in Melbourne, one of the sporting teams in Melbourne." And I was like, "Why are they looking for me?" And I said, "Oh, somebody upstairs mentioned you and kind of who you are and the kind of person you are, and this person would love to meet you." So I finished the conversation I was having. I went upstairs to meet this person. It was right at the end of the event. So it was literally a, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I've been busy downstairs, but I'd love to get together. Let's have a coffee." And to this person's credit, they called me the next day. "Hey, this is on a Tuesday." They called me, "Hey, what are you doing on the Friday? Let's get together." So we ended up getting together at kind of the home base of this sporting club, had a really great chat, and then stayed in regular contact to the point where now we're mates, but that has turned out to be an amazing relationship on both ends. He deals with corporate partnerships. I've been able to help him with that. You help people, and in turn, they're really nice to you. So I've been lovely. Like he's been lovely enough to invite me through to, some corporate events for the club as well, which has been great. But like that has turned into a friendship because of the time and effort that went into it on both sides. It wasn't just one-sided, me reaching out or him,
Yeah.
but that turned into a friendship that to this day we're still mates. Like it's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great story. So, Jason, for BDMs listening, what would be your tips on, okay, they've gone to a networking event, they're
Yep.
having great conversations when they're there, they're meeting some people, then what should they do next after the event?
Oh, I can't stress this enough.
Mm.
Networking is working, guys. Like it's amazing when people say, "Yeah, I went there and I met all these people," and they do nothing. Follow up is really important. I don't doubt that the person you meet will probably reach out to you as well, but the whole theme of today is also being proactive, isn't it? So be proactive. Get on the phone. "Hey, caught up with you. Would love to get together and have a coffee." Right? We we also live in a time now where Zooms are something that a lot of people embrace as well. So if you can't get the time to make a coffee, get on a Zoom. Just have a chat. It's amazing, kind of where everything can go when you learn about each other. And the most important part about networking is genuinely go into it thinking, how can I help this person? Because they're going to come in and want to know how I can help them. Like, so how I can help them and how they can help me. So that's what it's about. Go into it with an open mind. "Hey, tell me more about you. What does your business do? I'm all about helping as many people as I can. I'm sure you are too. Well, let's see how we can help each other." And you'd be amazed how quickly that can actually spiral into something as amazing as a great friendship.
Yeah, I love those tips. I think one little tip that I want to give away is what I really love to do is actually send a message to
Yeah.
not everyone that I met, but one like standout connection or relationship formed, and just thanking them for something that was said or like a light bulb moment from that conversation that was had. Now, not only does it make you feel good that you're doing that to the other person and they're not expecting that, but also like imagine the person receiving that
Oh,
message
for
from you.
sure.
Like they would go to sleep or end their day going, how lovely was that? And I think that's going back to what you said, like just being able to give without having that expectation back goes such a long way. And I feel
Spot on.
like that's a massive point of difference there. You go to a networking event, yeah, you can exchange business cards or connect with each other on social media, but actually sending a personalized message. Because I mean, I don't know about you, Jason, but like there's a fair few people that I actually get personal messages from, but
Yep.
it's very rare, I would say, these days that that happens. So,
100%. And it's exactly that. Like you hit the nail on the head perfectly to say, I'll send a personalized message as opposed to a, "Hey, great to meet you. Let me know when you're free for a coffee."
mm,
Right? And it's you are going to leave those events. You're going to leave conversations. They don't even have to be events. They can just be, you might be somewhere where you've met somebody or somebody has introduced you to somebody in some way, shape, or form. You may be doing whether it be a consulting gig at a real estate office or something, and one of the guys in the room who knows you says, "Hey, I want you to meet X because they really need a bit of help." And that great conversation, can lead on to so many other things. And imagine having that one person say to you, "Do you know what I heard the other day? I heard this really interesting fact." And you leave thinking, "Oh, that was an interesting fact. Like, how good is that? I'm going to be
Yeah.
thinking about that." Imagine messaging them to say, "Hey, it was really great to meet you. And thanks for the info on X. Never thought about it that way. And it's really got me thinking." They're now thinking, like you said, at home, "Hey,
Mm.
wow, like that was really nice." They didn't have to message to say, "Wow, thanks for having that chat. And I really took this away and I thought it was amazing." And you're right. Like they've now gone home thinking, "Oh, yeah, there you go. Spoke to another 30 people, got another 30 business cards." But I just got a message from Sarah to say, "Hey, thanks for this great light bulb moment. I'm going to be thinking about this and I'm going to use it moving forward. I think it's great." So
Mhm.
you're right. Like, why not make it personable? Like, make somebody else feel great about themselves. Like, it's not
Yeah.
hard.
For sure. And I guess it just builds you up then from getting someone to like you more quickly. And then everyone knows the next step after that is they're going to trust you more quickly, which in turn is
Yeah.
probably going to mean that they're more likely to want to catch up with you and collaborate or do business with you.
Oh,
On that, we were talking about, leveraging relationships. So
yep.
okay, cool. We put ourselves out there, we network, we're connecting with people, we're building these relationships. Ultimately, I think I read somewhere that at one given time, we can nurture relationships at about 150 people, which is
Mhm.
a lot, but not a lot when you think of, well, if BDMs want to be listing 300 plus a year and we only can nurture about 150, by the time I take my family out of the equation, that's like 50 people alone just there that I have to nurture relationship.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but then we want to leverage those relationships, right? So what do you think is key then, the next step in terms of leveraging those relationships and taking that to the next level to be able to, build maybe our credibility, get more business, collaborate on doing more ventures and things like that?
I, you said it perfectly when you said kind of the next step is trust, and that is a really big thing. So, I mean, you and I have, networking now is a big thing, and when you and I met years and years and years ago, it wasn't as big. You generally tend to meet people at industry events that you're at, and that's where you kind of met and networked with people. What I found is the minute that trust is built, it is kind of this big bang moment, if that makes sense. And the reason for that is, I mean, I'm very protective of my network. I love everybody that I work with. And, everybody that has their own network is really protective of it. Like, I don't want to recommend X to Y if Y is going to stuff X around, because that then makes me look bad. So everybody has that kind of guarded, uh, I guess you can say, kind of system when it comes to who they would refer people onto or how they'd help. When that trust is built, that's when the whole mentality of how can I help you comes into play, because my guard is down. I feel like I can trust you. I feel like I can trust you with my network. So I know that if I can refer somebody onto you to help, more often than not, you two are going to work well together. And even if you don't, it's a great conversation. Hey, spoke to them. Probably wasn't the direction I was looking for, but I appreciate your help. That's where kind of leveraging it comes into play. When that trust is built and the mentality of how can I help you comes into play, you can leverage it, because that's when those conversations are easy to have. Hey, I know you know this person. I've been trying to get in contact with them for a while. Would you mind making an introduction?
Mm.
And how quick are you going to say yes to somebody you trust?
Mm.
So that's where that leverage comes from. Because gone are the days where funny story. I spoke once at this. It was kind of like this BDM meeting for a real estate brand I was working with a little while ago, and I had this one person say, "Oh, networking is a waste of time." And I said, "Oh, why is that?" And I said, "Oh, I went to this networking event and I got nothing from it." So
Mm.
that mentality wasn't how can I help you? It was what can you do for me? Oh, you can't do anything? Well, stuff you. I'll go on to the next person and the next person. And as a result, left thinking, wow, what a waste of my time. Now, I would never think a networking event is a waste of my time. So I guarantee you, in the time that you spend there, there'll be that one person who, even if you do build that relationship with, you're going to get to that step where it's going to be kind of a building block to your network wall, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that mentality of kind of what can I get out of it is old school thinking, and I think we've made a shift now to everybody who does value a network. values that how can I help you mentality.
Mm.
And that's where the leverage comes in. So, hey, how can I help you? Like, what do you need? Like, what can I do to help you? I heard you know X. Great. What do you need?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's go. And then it's reciprocal. You know, it might not come there and then, but it will come down the track. And I have faith knowing that that's going to come. So it's okay.
Yeah. What are some other win-win scenarios?
Win-win scenarios when it comes to it's funny, right? So I look at have you ever read I think it's Getting to Yes, which is like a negotiation book. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's a really good book on negotiation. And really it talks about that there is no win-lose, like it's always win-win in some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And what you need to understand with win-win is that it might not be kind of 50-50. It might be 60-40, 30-70. Then on the next interaction, it'll be flipped,
Mm.
right? And that's where the win-win comes in. So some great win-wins, like honestly, I would say some of the best relationships I've formed that have turned into friendships is a direct result of that win-win when it comes to kind of opening up and collaborating with people, which
Mm.
is, hey, can you introduce me to X? Yeah, no worries. And then down the track, it's, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this person. I think you guys will get along amazingly. And as a result, it's turned into a great business relationship and a really good friendship. And
Mm.
it didn't happen overnight, but it happened.
Yeah.
And like that's where those win-wins come in, is it's reciprocal. The key word is reciprocal. It will come back tenfold, guys. That's what it's all
Sure.
about.
Well, as a BDM, I've told this story before, and you know who this person is, Shri. And Shri was
Yes.
someone who reached out to me on LinkedIn, wanting to meet up, mortgage broker in the same area that I service as a BDM. And initially, I didn't get back to Shri straight away, and thankfully I did. Now, Shri and I collaborated on an event which was Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, which you also
Yeah.
came to one of those events. But Jason, you saw firsthand, right, from that initial message that Shri sent out to us catching up to
Yep.
forming a relationship to then collaborating on an event together and then getting in a room with Shree's network and the other people that we had the event with network. I was then in turn be able to form other relationships with his network. So I think that's a classic example of one forming a relationship,
Yep.
leveraging the relationship, and a win-win was that we
Of course.
collaborated together on the event to bring our network and Shree's network together. And then Jason, in turn, you also were able to MC one of Shree's events. So
Yeah.
let's just see the domino effect. Like,
It just
um,
keeps exactly
you
right.
know, so
Absolutely.
I think like that is a perfect scenario and example of that, of what we just discussed in a nutshell, right? And I think
Absolutely.
this can happen more and more often. And I think we, need to remember though to be authentic. And that word gets thrown around a
Yeah.
lot, but the more you know who you are, your value, what you can bring to the table, how you can help others, what you believe in, what you care about, the more you're going to be able to form that connection, that relationship, and that trust.
Absolutely.
Mandy was recently a BDM who I had on the podcast, and she's so involved in her community, Jason. And honestly, when I shared something on my social media about us, she did the program as well. I had like one person message me, and she's like, "Oh, I know Mandy," and it's like that's because she's so out there in her community, and she does a
Yeah.
really great job of forming those relationships. So I think BDMs, if you're listening to this podcast today, like I really want you to ask yourself, have a look at your relationships. And are you truly leveraging those relationships and rate your relationships with the people that you have? Like, are you making the most?
Absolutely.
Jay's like we keep in touch all the time because I mean, not just that we're friends, but obviously we help each other out in the business front as well. But if we didn't nurture the friendship or the business relationship, it definitely wouldn't be a win-win scenario.
Spot on. And you know what a lot of people forget is you have to be active in
Mm.
these spaces, don't you? Right. So it does feel like it's a lot of work, yes, managing relationships and X, Y, and Z. Don't worry about that. Like, think of the long-term goals. Like you said, that tree example was perfect, right? Because it's exactly what you said. It was what started off as let's get together and catch up for a coffee has blown out to something that is now a great friendship. You've hosted events together. As a result, I got brought into the mix and I was able to help with the events too. And, everything has kind of come together beautifully, but it's because you're active in those relationships.
Mm.
So you've just got to remember that. It's not work. It's something that you should truly enjoy doing. Relationships are one of my favorite things in the world. I love maintaining them, making them, everything, you name it, because it's amazing. And I used to have this saying that I used to love all the time, and that was make friends with everybody, meet everybody, because you never know who is going to benefit you and who you can be a benefit to.
Mm.
And it's amazing when you do make all these friendships and connect with all these people, and one by one, you start to strategically know, oh, I can really align with this person well. I can really align with this, but me and this person connect really well as well.
Mm.
That's when it just grows into something
Yeah.
that can just completely blow your mind in the next 12 months.
Yeah, completely agree. That's so good. All right, so Jason, something that you're passionate about, something that I see is still a huge opportunity in the industry, and something that probably, I'm not going to lie, really annoys me
Yeah.
because of the lack of proactiveness that I see
Yeah.
from both a tenant perspective and from a landlord perspective is
Yeah.
like maintenance.
Oh,
Um,
get
and
excited.
yeah, get excited, team. I get excited because I know that there's a huge opportunity out there for this. And
Yeah.
I guess, look, that's why we got to be grateful that TAPI exists, because the organizations and businesses who have TAPI are definitely helping their tenants and helping their landlords. But what I really want to focus on is I hear this a lot, and it's classified as a point of difference for many, and that's, oh, we do proactive maintenance. But what that
Yes.
typically looks like is, yes, we do the routine inspections when they're meant to be due, and if there's any maintenance, we'll report it to you. And in that scenario, we'll organize trades, and we've
Yeah.
got great trades and rah 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 rah, right? However, I think, in my opinion, that's still a very reactive approach to
Yeah.
maintenance. So a BDM's role is to essentially sell the services of their property management department. However, a lot of them are doing this proactive maintenance, not proactive maintenance. How
Yes.
can they actually be proactive in their maintenance, Jason? And then how can BDMs be able to sell their services more?
You are spot on. So proactive maintenance. When I think of proactive maintenance, when you and I talk about it, like get excited, guys. This is the extent of Sarah and I's conversation. This is how excited we get every day. We talk about maintenance and things like this. But the whole idea for proactive maintenance really is, you're right. It's having it kind of being that step above, right, and having that level or that really big point of difference. And that point of difference is not that we'll get it fixed quick. I mean, everybody's going to say that.
They don't know.
Proactive maintenance is the ability for PMs to be able to identify, hey, what can we map out for the future of your investment to make sure that we're truly maximizing that investment for you? So, hey, tenant's been in there for 20 years. Walls will likely need a paint in the next 12 months. Why don't we make a note in here in 6 months' time to proactively bring that up to the owner? Hey, property is looking a little bit down. Maybe we should look at doing, a tenant might be moving out in 6 months. When the tenant moves out, we should seriously consider repainting the place before we release it, because people are going to walk through and say, wow, the place is clearly being looked after. This is amazing.
Mm.
Same as carpets. Hey, we've walked through the property. We've noticed that, the carpets, might be 7 years old, whatever it be. There's a bit of an iron mark on one. I think that's a bit of a staple in most investment properties now. One of the bedrooms is the iron mark on the floor. But, proactively say to the owner, hey, I've noticed this. We should look at doing this.
Mm.
What it does is it sets you aside from everybody else because, hey, do you want to get it fixed? No, you don't. Great. I'll ask you again in 6 months. No, no, no. What we want to do is basically say to you, in 6 months' time, we should look at replacing it for insert your beautiful expertise and knowledge here.
Mm. Yeah.
Tenants are going to appreciate it. We're going to be able to say that, you look at, like we look after your property as well. We have a certain standard within our business when it comes to the properties we manage. We want to make sure you, as an owner or as an investor, are really maximizing what you can get. And it's amazing hearing the word maximizing because it's a bit of a salesy term, but hey, we're BDMs. Get excited. Let's sell. The whole idea for this is we do want to maximize your investment because it is going to be the biggest investment you have.
Mm,
Why not leverage it to its fullest capabilities? And as a PM, I want to be better than the next person down the road or the next person past that or the next person past that.
mhm,
When somebody does come in and say, oh, but this person's doing it for this much money or this percentage, as we all know is the most common conversation that we hear.
mm.
Hey, what sets us apart is that we genuinely care about your investment. We'll
Yeah,
make suggestions on what you should do proactively from a maintenance standpoint to make sure you stay on top of everything and your property stays at that high standard in the area.
yeah. Jason, so when was it? Not last week, the week before, Tapi introduced sorry, I need to just think because we're going this podcast hearing will be in a couple of months. So recently, we're at the moment we're
Yes.
in April.
It's math.
Um,
It's math, guys. Come on.
yeah, Tapi introduced a document that shows average on the costs and when maintenance occurs, right? Which is
Yes.
great. And the thing is, though, how many of those property managers that downloaded that, one, are even using Tapi, which they should be, and two, actually having the conversations with their owners about that, right? Because
Spot
they
on.
can be aware or have the knowledge, which is great. Continue to upskill yourself and have that knowledge, but they should be having these educational videos at least, once a month on talking about these things with their landlords. BDM should be able to have that in their toolkits, is what I call
Yep.
their BDM toolkits, on saying, hey, did you know the average depreciation of carpets or walls are X amount of years? So that means on your property, if something was to occur, because let's be real, things happen like wear and tear, right?
Yep.
They won't be able to claim if they've maxed out the depreciation on their walls or their carpet. So to get ahead of that in 12 months' time, 2 years' time, because that's when you won't be able to have any depreciation on that asset anymore, let's
Hmm.
look at getting it recarpeted or repainted. It's going to cost X amount of money, which means you'll be able to claim X amount on depreciation. Happy.
Yep.
So you've made the landlord money because you've added extra beautiful visuals to their property that's going to attract more quality renters, get them a higher price, and they're going to be able to claim things at tax time, which I don't think any investor would argue that they
No.
don't claim things at tax time, right?
No. God, no.
That's proactive maintenance team, right? And as a
Spot on.
BDM, being able to have that in your tool belt and have those conversations, I feel as though that's a massive point of value.
It's huge, absolutely. And we have our asset register, right? So at the risk of sounding salesy, guys, I'm not here to sell anything, but what we generally tend to do is we've got the asset register, which can track the depreciable value on, or the depreciable life and value on assets. And it's amazing how many BDMs I have that will say to me, hey, we actually screenshot this and take it to listing presentations as a point of
Mm,
difference. And it's like, how good is that? It's,
yeah,
hey, we
totally.
track X, Y, and Z so we can stay on top of it and you don't have to.
Yeah,
We track X, Y, and Z because that's part of our job. We can tell you how much warranty is left in something, how old it is, how much money you've spent on it, whatever. So we can help you manage that asset from start to finish. It's going to get to, you're right, it's going to get to the end of a life, and proactively, it would be better to replace that for everything, for the tenant, for the property manager, and for tax.
for sure.
Why wouldn't we do it? And how good does that PM or how good does that BDM look when they're the ones raising it with an owner? Because it's one of those aha moments, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's great. Well, do you really go into that much detail? Yes, we do.
Yeah. Where I'm renting, we have one of those ancient ducted heater, the ones that are like in the laundry. Then they've got the big, like, what are they called? A flute? Is that what they
Yeah.
call it? Is
Yeah.
that the right terminology? Um, and I would say that it's got to be at least 40 years old, at least, right? Anyway, they have had to do some maintenance on it, but I'm like, surely at some point this the heating is going to collapse, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if they had an asset management tool, or they had
Yeah.
something like Tapi, or they'll have those conversations with landlords, you would be saying, hey, we want to avoid call out fees, and we want to avoid, extra fees that plumbers and gas plumbers charge when it's an
Yeah.
emergency or it's an urgent maintenance. And I would suggest putting X amount away every week to forecast that that's going to need to be replaced. Or
Yeah.
another thing I know that Tapi has is you've got payment options for landlords that potentially don't have the funds straight away. So even though, team, this wasn't about selling Tapi, but we're just showing you that by having something like Tapi, that's how you can have
Yeah.
proactive conversations and really offer the fact that we look after your maintenance proactively at your biggest asset.
Exactly right. And let's go back to the BDMs, right? So BDMs, if you're out there listening, and I know you all are because this is an amazing podcast, so you're all going to be chiming in. I am all about leveraging everything you have available to you to
Mm.
look amazing,
Yeah,
right? So if that is the property management index that you were talking about, right, which shows like the most common maintenance that happens in a quarter and, the average cost to repair all this stuff and all the rest of that, if that can set you above the next person who's heading out, because let's be real, on average, you'd probably know this number better than me, but let's say on average in any area, you're probably one of 5 or 6 real estate officers that'll be buying for business, right? So you're not going to be the only BDM that's heading out trying to win this business, but you can set yourself apart by offering something nobody else does.
yeah,
Hey, did you know X? What we do is proactive maintenance plans. We track depreciable values. We Anything you can use to look amazing,
mhm,
that's what I'm all about.
yeah,
Leverage it to get yourself the business. That's what BDMing's all about.
sure. Um, Something you said off air, Jason, and I really love this terminology. You said peak performance. I love that because you said we usually
Yeah,
say we want to maximize the return on your investment, right? But how about we want to help you get peak performance of your investment property? Like, hey, BDMs, roll with it if you
absolutely.
want, use that as your points of value. Thank Jason for that, your credit, right? But like that's something different that we don't typically see is we want to help you with the peak performance of your investment property. This is
Yeah,
how, right? Like we believe property management is about helping you with the peak performance of your investment property. I don't know about you, Jake.
exactly
That's a
right.
pretty powerful statement.
I'll tell you now, hey, sales is all about buzzwords, guys. Get on it. That's what it's about. No, but you're right. Like you, you're there. So a property management team, right? So the BDM is there to really kind of sell the benefits of using a property management team. The property management team is there to manage that asset better than anybody else. And you do want to make sure that asset is performing as high as it can.
Mm.
If you can do that, you look amazing to the investment market in the area that you're in, right? So your office will stand out like you wouldn't believe. BDMs, you will look amazing. PMs, you will look amazing. That's what it's all about. But it's not just about let's look like we're doing this. You want to make sure that your service is next level, right? Hey, we care about it. You and I have spoken about this before, where it's like, hey, I don't look at property managers as property managers. I look at them as like investment managers because that's essentially what they're doing. They're taking most often than not somebody's most expensive asset that they own and they're managing it.
Yeah.
And it is hard to manage, right? Let's be real.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
very real.
hard to manage.
Yeah.
And that's where, it goes from being the whole we get your rent, we reactively fix your maintenance, we do all that stuff too.
Mm.
No, you use us because we are proactive in everything we do to make sure that your asset is performing at the highest level.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where, all the reactive stuff, all the proactive stuff comes in, all the rest of that. It's setting you above by saying, hey, we don't just think about now and scramble to do stuff. We
Mm.
think about 6 to 12 months in advance for your benefit.
Yeah. And I think anyone listening now, if you don't jump on this movement now, you
Yeah.
are going to be left behind because this isn't old news or different things we're talking about. Like this is the way property management is going to be viewed now as trusted advisors or asset managers. And I already see those titles coming to play from property managers because investors are thinking differently now about their investment properties. And also, as an industry and as people, we are evolving. And let's be real, Jason. Property managers, real estate agents, we don't get paid a lot, and we have views externally that aren't so great. And the only way we're
Yeah.
going to change that is by us getting better.
Oh,
And
for sure.
by us getting better means doing things differently than we've done things before and charging accordingly because we are worth that. But you need to show that you're worth that first, and that is
Oh,
by
absolutely.
providing this value.
Exactly right. Absolutely. And it's a theme. It's a theme for property management, isn't it?
It
Which
is.
is kind of know your worth, right? And it's unbelievable, right? So I will use Victoria as the example because we live here and have gone through it longer than anybody else. And well, yeah, get excited. RTA, all the rest of that nonsense, right?
Yeah.
But there are so many things involved with property management now. Like I did it 15 years ago and didn't have to do three quarters of what's involved now. And
Mm.
it was hard 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's what it is. It's kind of keeping that one step ahead.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing to do. But if you do it, my goodness, you're
Mm.
not one step ahead of everybody else in everybody's perception. You are leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. So on that, Jason, because you and I are both passionate about keeping ourselves personally one step ahead and doing
Oh, always.
certain things, outside of, let's just say business and work. And I know some of the things that you do to stay one step ahead yourself. But for those listening, what's some advice that they can incorporate into their daily practices to remain one step ahead for their life in general?
So many things that you
Yes,
can
there
do.
is so many things.
There are so many things that you can do. One of the things that I did, guys, was I stupidly read the 5 a.m. Club and swore to myself at the end of the book, I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. So thought I could do everything by waking up at 6, started doing that. Fast forward to now, I wake up every day at 5 a.m. Purely because I like the time before the day to map out my day. So, like, I have two little kids. Like it's busy here the minute everybody wakes up. So, having that 2 hours beforehand to go for a walk, kind of clear your mind, get back. I like to do a bit of journaling, kind of put everything down on paper and really kind of just laser focus everything. I've started putting aside time to read books around like processes and time management and all the rest of that, things that I can really implement into my day. Um, but that early rise, and I know a lot of people aren't early risers, so I'll put this in a different way. Find time for yourself, even if it's an hour a day where you can switch off. So a lot of people might do that after hours at the gym, might be early morning walks, might be whatever it be. Find time to really just gather your thoughts
Mm.
because everybody listening to this is in an industry where your mind would be running a million miles a minute 24/7.
Mm.
Just find the hour. If you can, find the hour and put on a meaningless podcast that is absolute dribble. This is one thing I cannot stress any more than I can. I listen to something, it's not for everybody. It's called Flagrant, and it is just literally comedians acting like idiots for 2.5 hours. But that helps me switch off. Like I don't think of anything while I'm listening to these idiots have a laugh
Yeah.
because that then slows down my thought process. I'm not thinking about what I didn't do today, what I have to do tomorrow, or anything like that. I'm literally just clearing my mind and having a laugh for 20, 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
find that time, look after yourselves. I can't stress this enough, guys. I'm a big fan of the Real Care app. If anybody has seen
Yeah.
it from the Rise Initiative, download it. For the love of God, it is amazing. I'm not here to plug it,
No,
but it
it's
is
so good.
amazing
Yeah.
as a support to anybody in the real estate industry, PMs in particular. The amount of resources that are on there for you, including free resources, is phenomenal. Take advantage of that stuff. Like, look
Yeah.
after yourselves.
I played around with it the other day and they have a section and it's just breathe. And you
Yeah.
just literally press the button and it's just telling you when to breathe. Something that we don't do consciously enough is
Yeah.
is breathing. And people might be listening to this going, Sarah, this is your woo-woo corporate hippie stuff. No, team. Scientifically, like honestly, you'll like I swear you're probably right now, you're not even conscious of breathing. I'm not, are you?
No, not
No.
well. It's funny because you and I know about this stuff, yes, but no.
Yeah. But no, but like right now, we're not consciously breathing. But like finding moments in your day, even if it's like in your car or when you're brushing your teeth, is just concentrating on just your breath, right? And in moving
Absolutely.
throughout your day, creating these moments. So even if
Yeah.
like you think an hour is a stretch, you could break that hour into these little micro moments throughout your day. And all of a sudden, yes, in an hour of your day, you've actually dedicated to yourself in those
Yeah.
moments, right?
Spot
So
on.
I am a big advocate on if you say you don't have time, I call bullshit on that. And that's just my no fluff approach. You make the time. And if you don't, then
Yeah.
I feel like that's when you'll find burnout, you'll be
Hmm.
unhappy, your energy will be low, and then you'll probably wonder why your relationships are shit, or you feel like shit, or you're not
Yeah.
happy. So hate to be the ones to, point the finger back at you, but honestly, you got to take control of your day. Jason can get up at 5 a.m. And
Oh,
Jason, the other thing, right? Seeing as though we're having a conversation before we wrap it up. Now, Jason is a man who typically will drink a enormous amounts of coffee a day.
oh, I knew
However,
this was going to come up.
I was so proud of you because there was a day when you actually said,
Oh, I think I got like this. It was the organic like ginseng caffeine mix thing, and I thought what I'll do is in the morning after I finish my walk and I sit down outside to read my book, I'll mix this thing and I'll sit
let it
there
happen.
drinking it because it's a liter of water and it's all natural stuff. And the only person I thought of when I bought this thing was you, because I thought if anybody's going to be happy with me lowering my caffeine intake, it's going to be Sarah Cincotta.
Oh, so funny. So funny. And
Oh,
now you've got
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, you're spot on though about making time. Like, that's the reason why I wake up at 5. I don't enjoy it at all, right? I cannot stress this enough, but it's the only time I have to do it, right? So I'll wake up at 5 and it's good. Like, it's got sleeping patterns back on track, which means I go to bed at like 9:30, 10, which is a win. But it's the only time I can do it. I used to try and do it at night and found that I was very inconsistent with it. So, just do it. It's going to be hard. Alter your daily routines and do something uncomfortable to whether that's waking up earlier or whatever it be. Because spot on, what Sarah said is right. If you don't make time for yourself, nobody else will. And that's your problem, nobody else's. So
Sure.
we've got to get on top of it and look after ourselves, guys. That's what it's all about.
Jason, as always, such great conversation, and I'm glad that we've recorded this one. And yeah, it was great. So many gold nuggets, from talking about relationships and how we can leverage our relationships, networking, some great tips in there. How we can really view proactive maintenance and some things that, our business development managers can do and talk about with their landlords as long as that
Yeah.
is incorporated in the office. And then just, the mindfulness stuff, which is, that I absolutely love. So we are looking forward to seeing you in person at the summit events in a few months.
Can't
Um,
wait.
and always love running into you at events anyway and all your emceeing. But thank you so much for joining us today, Jason, and sharing your wisdom with the BDM community.
Oh, anytime. Guys, go be free. Listen to these episodes and just go and smash it. That's what it's about.
As always, team, keep rising.